Today, when we look at the ultra-Orthodox world, we see that it's actually quite multifaceted. There's all different kinds of ultra-Orthodox Jews. There's Sephardic and Ashkenazic. One of the big splits is the Lithuanian Orthodox Jews versus the Hasidish, the guys who wear the fur hats, the Streimels. Today we look at it as one big sort of happy ultra-Orthodox world, but the reality is, when Hasidut appeared in the Jewish world going back 300 years ago, it was actually a very radical split from mainstream Judaism, which was very strongly opposed by the rabbis. Now, whereas today the differences between Hasidic Jews and non-Hasidic Jews are very subtle, 300 years ago, they were quite different. Hasidut came out of a desire to revitalize the Jewish world, where only a small percentage of the population had the time to study. Okay. And most Jews were just trying to eke out a meager living. And many Jews, because of the very difficult economic, political situation, the poverty, were spiritually on a very low level. So Hasidut was an attempt to revitalize that. But its big innovation was to do things very different, to emphasize singing and prayer over study, which was considered a very, very radical thing. And we have to appreciate, whereas today, if you see Hasidim and they have their tish, where they all stand on these bleachers and sing, going back 300 years ago, many Hasidim did very, very bizarre things. They stood on their heads when they prayed. They jumped up and down. They screamed. They clapped. All kinds of interesting, strange innovations. They also changed the whole davening. The language of the prayers was switched from the typical Ashkenazi davening to the Sephardic version of the prayers. Many different innovations were brought in, which shocked many of the rabbinic leadership of Europe, which is why there was such strong opposition to the Hasidic movement, feeling that it was a radical innovation. And generally we see in Jewish history that even small innovations, if left to fester, eventually grow into major breaks and splits, and before long the whole dam is washed away and gone, and you have a major split in the Jewish people. But thank God with Hasidut, we see that it was a split that didn't happen. Initially there was a lot of confrontation and bad feelings, but because of the pressure put on the Hasidic world by the non-Hasidic world, by the Lithuanian rabbis of northern Poland, Hasidut did not split into a separate religion. It definitely directed itself back into the mainstream, the fold of what was Orthodox Judaism. And we see that in hindsight, it did act as a very powerful, revitalizing force for the Jewish people, which ultimately ended up strengthening the Jewish community and creating a whole subsection of ultra-Orthodox Judaism, which is now, of course, very mainstream and offers tremendous amount to the spiritual life of the Jewish people.